Who is Albert Fish, the real Hannibal, the serial killer who inspired the Silence of the Lambs? How did Hannibal choose his victims? Why did he torture them before killing them? What happened in the process that turned him into a monster? Why did he commit his murders? Today, we tell the life story of Albert Fish, one of the most notorious and murderous serial killers in history, and look deep into his sick mind. Some called him a werewolf, some a cannibal, some the Brooklyn vampire. The most ruthless and notorious serial killer in history, Albert Fish. His notoriety terrorized America in the early 1900s. Even years after his death, the depths of his sick mind could not be unraveled. However, if we look at his life story, the suffering and negativity he experienced along the way, which turned him into a cruel and inhuman monster, contained many clues to his sick soul. Believed to have committed over 100 murders, Fish is also known as the oldest serial killer. The pain he inflicted on his victims, his cannibalism, and his sick soul have given him a sordid reputation all over the world. And of course, the film Silence of the Lambs, starring Anthony Hopkins, adapted from the novel of the same name by author Thomas Harris. Filmed in 1991, The Silence of the Lambs not only made a huge impact around the world, but was also nominated for 7 Oscars in '92. The film told the story of Hannibal Lecter, a serial killer who became a cannibal while working as a psychiatrist and attempted to delve into the depths of Hannibal's sick mind. The impact of the film and curiosity about the real Hannibal led to the recollection of Albert Fish, the murderer who created a real horror in America in the 1800s. Hannibal, Albert Fish's mental disorder dates back to his childhood. In 1870, Albert Fish lost his father when he was only 5 years old and was placed in a children's home as an orphan. Fish, who stayed there for 2 years, was unable to adapt to the institution and mental disorders began to appear. Life continued to be cruel for Albert Fish, who returned to live with his mother after a period in a children's home. After being sexually abused, he complained constantly of severe headaches. Little did anyone know at the time that the foundations had been laid for a mental disorder that would turn him into a ruthless monster. In 1882, Hannibal's homosexual tendencies began to emerge. He had already committed his first illegal acts. These minor offenses were nothing compared to the atrocities he would commit in the years to come. Albert Fish, who did not have a healthy family life as a child, married in 1898 and had 6 children. But he still could not find the family happiness he was looking for. His wife left him and ran off with another man. After that, Albert Fish kept changing addresses. He slept with other women. He sexually abused hundreds of children wherever he went. He killed some of them. Albert Fish committed his first known murder in 1910 at the age of 40. This murder was the first link in a chain of events that would lead him to become the world's oldest serial killer. Albert Fish's interest in various heresies increased after the age of 40. At the same time, he began to show an apparent inclination towards religion. One of his greatest dreams was to become a priest. He believed that his suffering and murders were in the name of religion. After his first murder, he quickly became one of the world's most ruthless serial killers. He is thought to have committed around 15 murders over a period of just 10 years. This sick man didn't just kill his victims, he tortured them excruciatingly. He sexually abused them and even ate their flesh. Albert Fish also argued that he committed all his atrocities and murders in the name of religion. What Hannibal did not only to his victims, but also to himself, was unimaginable. He tortured himself as excruciatingly as he tortured his victims. Beating oneself with a spiked stick, drinking one's own urine, sticking needles in the groin were just a few of the heinous tortures. Albert Fish believed that these tortures were punishment for his sins. He also saw his victims as sacrifices to God. Moreover, his victims were often small and defenseless children. Fission, which had become one of every parent's worst nightmares in America, was killing more and more children every day. The event that doomed Hannibal took place in 1928. Fish spent time gaining the trust of a family. Then he kidnapped the family's little girl on the pretext of taking her to his nephew's birthday party. Of course, this hideous serial killer had no intention of taking the little girl to a party. Albert Fish took the little girl to an empty house and began to carry out his murderous plan. He killed her and cut up her body. Albert Fish took some parts of the little girl's lifeless body to the boarding house where he was staying and did not leave his room for 9 days. During this time, the murderous man cooked and ate the remains of the little girl's body and masturbated. After this brutal incident, Albert Fish began to flee, but his cruelty continued unabated. He continued to hurt the girl's family. He wrote them letters telling them how he had killed their daughter, how he had eaten the remains of her body. The letter he sent contained disgusting statements such as, "It took me 9 days to eat your whole body," but he said he had not raped her. Although these letters continued to hurt the little girl's family, they also provided the most important clues to catch the murderer. In fact, this escape lasted 6 years. A policeman called William King managed to catch Albert Fish, one of the most notorious serial killers in history. At the end of the trial, which lasted almost a year, Albert Fish was declared insane. But this did not mean that his crimes would go unpunished. He was sentenced to death by electrocution. Hannibal's reaction to the verdict once again revealed his sick state of mind. Albert Fish said after the verdict was announced that he would be happy to experience a pleasure he had never known. Albert Fish, 65 years old, was sentenced to death on 16th of January 1936. On the day of his execution, after the electric chair short-circuited, Albert Fish was X-rayed and found to have 29 needles in his body. The revelation of this truth did not delay the death sentence, and Albert Fish was executed by electrocution the same day in New York's Sing Sing prison. But although a century has passed, his actions are still remembered. Can a human being do these things? We look forward to hearing your comments. See you in the next video.